Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back. I see a lot of familiar Zoom boxes here. I think most of you have been with us all morning. For those who are just joining, welcome to our next session. I realized I didn't introduce myself before, but I'm Chelsea Cohen. I'm one of the professional development coordinators for Peralta District. I also teach English for speakers of other languages at Laney College. And I am delighted to introduce our next presenters. We have Dr. Sarah Straub and Dr. Rachel Jumper here from SFA. And what does SFA stand for again?
Stephen F. Austin State University.
Okay, Stephen F. Austin State University. So from Texas.
Yes.
And what time is it over there?
It is 3:00 p.m.
3 o'clock. All right. We're at 1 o'clock in California, and we've got people from all over the world here at this conference and all over the states. So they'll be talking to us about quick wins for online teaching, practical strategies for digital learning equity. Take it away.
And
Thank you.
thank you. Hi, everybody. We'll introduce ourselves in just a second. But we did try and make this interactive. So I'm seeing a lot of the generic Zoom boxes, and I understand it's 3 o'clock, it's 4 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock, it's the after lunch slump. And you do not need to turn on your video, but just know that we are going to be asking for your engagement in a little bit. So thank you in advance.
All right, so the way that we like to set our presentations up, and Sarah especially likes to do this, is to think about what is it that we can do now in our classes. And so today we're going to be talking about small teaching strategies that you could implement right now to engage students more in an online learning environment. And then we'll talk about what could we do next. So could you analyze the impact of small instructional changes and things that you could do to help your students persist, and then more long-term issues of what could you do later and how could you build a plan that you can implement as you continue to teach online to help students, foster community and autonomy and persist through online classes.
Heck yeah. So before we actually get into it, we do want to introduce ourselves. You can see I'm an associate professor of education studies. You can see a couple of the, resume lines, CV lines that, show my background when it comes to online teaching and my areas of focus. But more importantly, I want you all to know what kind of teacher I am in a virtual online space. My very first goal, and I learned this term from Rachel Jumper, my very first goal is to reduce cognitive load. I want to make the access to the content as easy as possible, the ability to complete assignments as easy as possible. And so that is something that I want reflected in all of my courses. I also really enjoy intentional collaboration, and I work to make sure that there's collaboration from me to the students amongst each other, and really importantly, the students to the community that they're in. My students are all over the state of Texas, so it's not like we can all come to Nacogdoches and visit Caddo Mounds. Students are doing work in the field wherever they live. I also really find co-construction of knowledge to be very valuable. This isn't something that I can do in every single class, although I really try. But having a space where students can share their own perspectives and their own way that they've internalized the information and even share their own resources is really important to me. Likewise, I really try to be intentional about making sure that students know that what they're doing has an impact on their future career goals. If you saw education studies, I'm in a teacher preparation program. Rachel's in something different, so she'll talk about that. But I'm doing this from the idea that everything that we're doing in class is a skill that they can then translate to their future careers. And most importantly, this is what I said 17 years ago when I entered a middle school classroom. Why do I want to be a teacher? Because I want to have fun. And that is still true to this day. So that is who I am as a teacher. What about you, Rachel?
So for me, I am an associate professor in human development and family studies. I am the graduate coordinator for our human sciences master's program. And so currently I'm only teaching graduate classes, but my background is in human development and family studies. So as Sarah mentioned, reduction of cognitive load in my classes has always been a primary piece for me as a teacher. Even when I was teaching face-to-face before I started teaching online, I think that the reduction of cognitive load for our students is really important because, and we'll talk about cognitive load in a minute, but I just feel like if students are scrambling to figure out what I want for them to do, and my instructions aren't clear, then they spend more time trying to decide what I want them to do than actually doing the task that I've set out that they are going to learn from. So that's a big thing for me in my classes, is reducing that cognitive load. I also am really focused on feedback and meaningful assessments. And so that's really important to me as an instructor, that I give them personalized feedback. Even in, again, an online setting, some of our classes get really big, but I always want to address my students by name and give them feedback that they can apply to their next assignment. And then it's really important for me to give my students voice in the classes so that their personalities come out and that they have opportunities to express what's important and meaningful to them. And I also want for them to be able to do that through collaborative learning within the class. So again, in online classes, sometimes it's easy for us to just try to focus it on, okay, this student is in their own little personal area and we don't see them face to face, but I really like to have them connect and collaborate on their learning experiences. And then again, because they are master's level students, most of them have some work experience, families. Primarily, our major is non-traditional college students. And so in the book that we're talking about today, she actually mentions that the quote, non-traditional student is becoming the traditional student. And I loved that part of the book when we read it, because I think that's really true. And those students bring a lot to the course. And so I want for them to have opportunities to see the relevance of what they're learning and connect that to their lived and quote, real world experiences or real life experiences. And then I copied Sarah Straub on this one, but definitely to have fun. But for me, it's really important that my classes are flexible. And so getting that feedback from students and being able to change course or pivot as the semester is in progress is really important to me, but making that fun for the students as well to address what they're interested in.
Thank you, thank you. And so before we dive into what our actual small strategies are, we want to make sure that we're all coming into this from a common background with definitions. I'm going to put a link into the chat, and this is an article that Rachel and I did maybe 2 years ago, but I want us all to have a foundation for what digital learning equity is. Digital learning equity goes beyond simply providing access to technology. For us in East Texas during COVID, access to internet was, it was a very real struggle for our rural students. But digital learning equity goes beyond that access. It encompasses ensuring that all learners have the resources, support, and opportunities they need to fully participate and succeed in this learning environment. And basically that means that there's comprehensive access, reliable internet connectivity, appropriate devices, necessary software, and then that there is actual digital literacy and support. So equipping our learners with those digital literacy skills that allow them to use technology for learning. So that could be generative AI now, it could be different, even Zoom or how to use Google Docs, but making sure that we're just not assuming that our students are coming here knowing what to do, that we provide that training for our students. And finally, that there are equitable opportunities, so that there are learning environments that are inclusive and responsive to the diverse needs of our learners, including with disabilities. The fact that Zoom now allows you to add in an ADA translator is one of the cool features that we have at our university for ASL. The fact that transcriptions are there, the automatic takeaways, platforms are getting so much better, but making sure that we're providing that opportunity to make sure our opportunities are as equitable as possible.
Right. And we touched on this a little bit when we were introducing ourselves, that this is a concept that's important to both of us as online instructors. But cognitive load is really about reducing the amount that students have to think about what it is that you want them to do in a class. So online learning environments have a reputation for being places where a whole lot of information is just dumped on students, and they have to do the heavy lifting of sorting through the content and figuring out what it is they're actually supposed to be learning from the class. And we really feel like that's not what good practice in online learning is, and that's not what we do as instructors. And so cognitive load theory really emphasizes that there are ways that we can divide up the courses and present students with manageable amounts of information, and increase their knowledge and help guide them through the course. And so, for example, when I first started doing online teaching, I had some colleagues who really didn't want to give students a link to the assignment for the week because they wanted for the student to go in and go through all the content that they had to find the assignment buried somewhere in that content. Well, that's not helping a student's cognitive load, right? That's putting the burden on the student to go and find what it is that you want them to do. So in my classes, I always put a weekly note where I link to the content module for the week, and I link to any assignments that are due for that week so that they don't have to think about where is it that I go to find the assignment. It is just there for them. It's the first thing they see when they log on. They can continue to come back to that. So that framework really allows students to avoid becoming overwhelmed by the amount of information that's presented a lot of times in online classes. And it just helps them to process it more effectively and be more successful. And so, again, that's the basis of where we come from in designing these courses that we both have designed and revamped using the equity rubric, and really looking at cognitive load and how we can help reduce that for our students so that they get to the heart of what it is that we want for them to learn, because we don't want them to spend all their time trying to find the information, and the burden's not on them to figure out what we want to teach them. We need to tell them what we want to teach them and help them to get there to get that information.
And then what we want to do here is I always get a little bit flustered when I'm trying to do both, is I'm linking a podcast episode about small teaching. The project that Rachel and I did first, it was something that kind of got our teaching philosophy in sync. The second thing that we did is we looked at actual applicable ways to go about enhancing our online teaching. So the woman pictured here, her name is Flower Darby, and she wrote a book with James Lang called Small Teaching Online, Applying Learning Science in Online Classrooms. The definition of small teaching for how we're going to talk about it today is that it involves implemental, small, focused changes to your online teaching practices that can have a significant impact on student learning. These are achievable, sustainable adjustments rather than complete overhauls. This approach really aligns with James Lang, his earlier work on small changes for meaningful learning, and Darby's practical actionable advice. And it focuses on student connection and engagement and how to leverage technology thoughtfully. So we're going to be looking at a couple of examples, and Rachel will talk about our anchor text.
So as Sarah said, this was the book that we are using as the anchor for this presentation. Sarah led a book club this semester that I participated in. So she is really, I'm following along on her coattails here, but she really was the one who got this started and led us through reading this book and thinking about what are some ways that we can make small changes. And our first project that she linked to earlier was a very in-depth, long-term, over the course of a semester, we rewrote a class each. Each of us rewrote a course together. This book focuses more on what are small things that you can do right now, or little tweaks to your class, not major overhauls, but what are tweaks that you can make that are practical and feasible for you to do to really apply these ideas of small teaching and making your courses more accessible and more equitable. And so it was a really great experience going through that. And we'll talk more about collaboration in a minute, but it's great to go through this together with your peers to see what kinds of things that they're doing, and how when they read what these small teaching strategies are, how they're applying them in their class to really help make the access to the content in the course better.
Thank you. And so thank you for that segue. This This book is a great book. I had fun reading through it, but honestly, the best piece of advice that we can both give you when it comes to improving your online teaching is collaboration. So whether that's just having a one-on-one check-in or doing a book club, that collaboration is super important. And we are trying to create that type of environment right now. So Chelsea, we're going to put you on the in the hot seat for a second, because we've got 3 different ways we can do this, depending on your experience with the audience so far. So option number 1 is we can do a jigsaw. So we've got about 16 people in the room. If your last names are A through E, you'd be in a breakout room looking at slides 15, 16, and 17 and having a conversation. So we'd have 4 breakout rooms, and then you'd come back and you'd talk about your favorite one in a whole group. Option 2 is more like a gallery walk. So this is where I put the editable link to the slide deck in the chat. After the presentation, we'll switch back to view only, so you won't be able to edit it anymore, but we'd still go by last names. So Chelsea would be looking at slides 15, 16, and 17. Rachel would be looking at slides 18, 19, and 20. Sarah would be looking at slides 24, 25, 26, and 27. And what you would do is you would look at them. There are post-it notes on each slide. You would click on the slide and add in your notes, your connection to the strategy, why it might be an easy win for you. If you had a question or didn't understand, you would add it to the post-it note. And option number 3, if folks are, checked out, we can go through each slide one by one. So Chelsea, what do you suggest that we do based on your experience today?
I think option 2 might be nice. So we open up a link and then we add our comments, right?
Yes. So let's go see. We already have 3 people that are in there, so that's fantastic. The link is in the chat. So if you could just take a minute just to click on that link, and I will show you what it's going to be looking like. We got more people joining. I'll do slide 24 as an example. When I'm looking at this, and I'll have to make it a little bit bigger so it can be seen by me. When I'm looking at this, I see that the small teaching strategy is to nudge targeted students. I'll start by reading the little anecdote that I have here. So this is an example from my ECED 4301 class. On Tuesdays, I schedule time to review grade books. When I do that, I look for, if there was something concerning that a student submitted, or if they're not submitting things, and I make a targeted plan. So at our school, we have something called Early Alert, where I can let the advisors know through a system, but I also send direct emails. So this picture to the right is an email that I wrote to the student this semester about what I suggest that they do. And it's just a connection to another book that I'm reading. So what I would ask for you all to do, if I were that student, if I were the example right now, is I would click on this and be like, oh, great. How do you schedule time? I might have a thought like, I do this too. The students really respond. And you can just add in your own feedback into those charts. So I'm going to undo both of them. And I'm going to go back to the first slide. So Christina, your last name is H. You would be looking at slides 18, 19, and 20. Linda, your last name starts with a D. You'd be looking at slides 15, 16, and 17. Jamie Cooper, 15, 16, 17. Shirley, I'm not sure if your last name is Jordan or Isaiah, so pick your poison, and so on and so forth. I have a timer set for about 9 minutes, so this is just going to be a generic gallery walk. Are there questions before we begin?
So we're answering those 3 questions. What is the strategy? Why is this an easy win? And if you have an example or question, add it, right?
Right. And afterwards, after those 9 minutes have gone through, if there's a strategy that you just didn't get, we can spend our time focused on that. In the chat, you can say, like, please look at slide 15, and we can discuss that whole group. Or I really have a great story to share about slide 17. We can turn the mic over to you. But we'll take about 9 minutes just to go through the 3 slides that you would be assigned to. And I'll go ahead and start my timer. Chelsea, please feel free to engage as well. And then Rachel and Sarah, us, will go ahead and do the same thing. So 9 minutes starting now. Of course, I've got the music started.
Sarah? Sarah, it's
Yes.
Linda. I stepped out for a second and I came back in. You said I was doing slide 15, 16, and 17, but I missed prior to that.
Okay, let
I
me
had
pause
to,
my music.
okay.
Okay, so you'll be looking at slides 15, 16, and 17, and adding to that post-it note if you have a connection, if you have a question, why you think this could be an easy, small strategy to incorporate in your own classroom, and basically if you just have any sort of takeaways on slides 15, 16, and 17.
15, 16, and 17. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There are about 2 minutes left. Let's get our final thoughts in. If you're done and want to scroll through some of the other slides just to get an idea, please feel free. All right. Welcome back and thank you. We'll be going through each slide. You can see that we have comments there. If there's something that is asking for clarification, like this first slide is doing, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? That would be helpful. There we go. So we are resharing our slides, and as you can tell, you have all added input. As we go through these, if there's questions about clarity, like this particular slide, I'll go ahead and add that in. There are actually two separate strategies on here. The first one is setting your purpose, and the second one is supporting professionalism. So that is where that confusing part is for. That first image of the two books with the target, that is from my syllabus. And, you know, I don't know about you all, but our syllabus with everything we're required to include is 20 to 30 pages. And I remember when I was in school and it was, you know, 5 pages long. It was something that was really accessible, and now it's not. So having something like this at the very top, that's just like, why are you in this class? This goal is that you can have a positive impact teaching social studies to all students. That's why you're here. That's trying to get it down to the nuts and bolts. That second part for supporting professionalism is placement verification is, again, I teach pre-service teachers, so they're in the field. They have to get background checks. They have to do all of these things. So in our LMS, which is Brightspace, setting these little reminders with this big, this I for important is my way of telling my students, hey, we're in week 2, make sure your background check's done. Hey, we're in week 3, make sure you've reached out to Dr. Riley. Hey, we're in week 4, did you get that background check done? and just having these professional indicators in there that are not necessarily aligned with the class, but are aligned to their professional goals, just makes it so that that burden isn't all on them. Are there any questions about those? All right, let's keep going. It looks like for the most part, you all really enjoyed this one, which makes me happy. This is something from a meeting that I had that was not required because online asynchronous, but a meeting where every time that we met, which happened at various times throughout the semester, this same chart would pop up and the blue check marks would pop up as we were going through them. So they could see where we're going. They could see when in the course it was happening, and we could always have that why. But it did not seem like that one was confusing, so that's great. For the sourcing existing material, this particular student was chosen, or she is not one of my students. This is a regular YouTube video, but she is their age. And I have found that when I use videos, this one's about APA 7th citation, from content generators who look like my students, they tend to be more accessible. But I do love the idea of having current students. We have city training for our human ethics, and I typically will have a student of mine log in and show their classmates how to go through things like that. Okay, I'm looking at the chat. Okay, that is a good suggestion about the check marks to make them lighter. Whatever works for you. The short lecture videos, it seems like, again, there are people in the audience that do this as well, so that's great. And we have a caution about making sure that the captions are correct. It takes longer than you think, but it's necessary. And checking the auto summaries. Yes, that is true. You'll see that I have highlighted that there is the auto transcript, that there is the caption, that there are next steps, and there are summaries. And this is something that's auto generated. But yeah, taking time. Whoever made that comment, if you want to share maybe like a horror story for how you learned why that was so important to do, we'll give you a second. No worries. My name always comes up as Straw instead of Straub.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
I would love that.
Sorry. We just got a notification that there's a Zoom outage, a national Zoom outage, and that's why Rachel probably couldn't get in. And there are folks who were also trying to get into this session who weren't. So just in case we get interrupted, that's happening right now.
Okay.
That's all I want to say.
Phew. No, that explains a lot of what's happening on campus. So that's great. Thank you.
I'm really glad we're still going and everything's still working smoothly as of now.
Yeah, bear with us, folks. All right, so for intentional structuring of student interactions, these are things where, for me, it's just make sure your initial post is by Thursday, that you have your completed one by Sunday. It just make sure to try and be as cognizant of student lives as possible. By having that initial post by Thursday, people that want to keep their weekends free can. And by not having that post until Thursday, people that don't get started right on Mondays, as we all want them to do, will have that couple of day grace period. It seems like you all were pretty happy with this one. I do the same thing. I'm glad that you shared your golf lessons with students, and I'm glad that you got tips. Whoever said that, I tried golfing as well, and I used a club that had the letter P on there for putting. And I was so confused as to why my ball kept on going up into the air. Can anyone tell me why? Because it wasn't a putter, it was a pitching wedge. And I had no idea why it wasn't working. So I hope you had better luck with golf than I did. Okay, so here's an example of name drop. I don't think my audio is working, but I'll just share a story. Back when I taught in 7th grade, I had a student and her name was Oriolua. She was from Nigeria, and my very first day teaching, I was going through the names, and she said, before I get there, before you even say my name, just call me Oreo. And so that's what I called her for the entire 7th grade year. My class was really big 7th grade social studies about cultural identity and personal development. And about halfway through the year, she was like, "Hey, Dr. Straub, do you think that you can call me Oriolua? My name means something. I'm not a cookie. It's like in Nigerian, it has it's a really powerful thing, and I really want to be called that." So Oriolua is not hard to say. Just like everyone knows the example of Zach Galifianakis, we can all learn how to say Zach Galifianakis. So how come we can't learn how to say other names that might be different for us? So namedrop.io, and I'll click on it. But again, I don't know if my audio is working, is a free thing to do. And once you do it, it shows you how to say your name. I don't know if you heard that. You didn't hear it, but it did say my name correctly. And I'll put it in the chat. So on your end, you can just see what that comes out to. But this is something that I use in Faculty Senate. It's something I use with my students. And so they share their name drop, and it's a required part of any post or discussion board, just to make sure that we're honoring everyone's names. The second example is just about making sure that I'm honoring what people have going on in their lives. So it is an online asynchronous class. I do schedule some synchronous opportunities. In this particular class, it was for certification, so they did have to come, but I allowed them to miss, no questions asked. In terms of cultural inclusion, honestly, I see the point. Like, do you have any other ideas? And I would say it definitely depends on your location. So, I'm from Houston, and that is a cultural mecca. And so, getting involved in the community and seeing a bunch of cultures that are not like yours, the windows and mirrors identity is really easy there. But I've moved to Nacogdoches, and for the first couple of years I was here, white, rural, poor, and Christian. And those were the identities. Now that I've spent more time here, I can see that there's a lot more diversity in our communities. We have we have immigrant populations that are coming in. We have the Caddo Mounds, which is a Native American indigenous tribe that celebrate their special events here. So there's a lot going on. But learning about your community, I would say, is the best bet, and learning about your students and their identities, which is different. So relationships is the back end way to teaching for cultural inclusion. And it looks like this is good. What happens when you seem to get caught up? And my only recommendation here is my grading time is sacred. And so if someone says, "Hey, can we schedule this this curriculum meeting at 10 o'clock on Monday?" No, we can schedule it after 2, or we can schedule it any other day of the week. But I would say only about 10% of the time will I take a meeting during these scheduled times. And typically that's for students. So not for my other workloads. And that's just a boundary that I set. Good luck to everybody else. We didn't really have anybody chime in on this one, but this is one of my favorites. This is Calendly or bookings or any of those sort of ways that you can schedule meetings with your students. I've done it 2 different ways where students could just schedule meetings whenever they want. You can see here, Rebecca, Cassie, Lori, Jared has a 15-minute meeting, Kristen, Kai, Garrett, any of these small blocks, those are students that have set meetings with me during the week. And I found that by having this particular format, I get on average between 10 and 17 hours of one-on-one meetings with students a week. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. Again, I'm online asynchronous. So if you are synchronous, that number would drop significantly, but just an example, and Calendly has been great for that. Same for the nudges. Great technique. Thank you so much. The question was, do students ever get too clingy? And this is like, if you're trying to offer them all of this support, that is a great question. This particular student did, for a while, just bombard me with all of the issues that he was facing and just asked for support. But I mean, why did we get into teaching? And it honestly takes only a couple minutes to respond. So it can happen, but then you just kind of wean them off by putting the ownership onto them. I see that Julian also uses Calendly and has had success, so thank you for sharing that in the chat. The next one, we have somebody asking if students can develop their own contracts, what would happen there? I would say I have done that in face-to-face settings and it works really well. I don't have experience in online asynchronous, so if you do, please share. We also have someone who shared a strategy called user manuals and they linked it. You'll have access to this PowerPoint, so you can open up that link, which is awesome. Thank you so much. So you can access that opportunity there. We're getting close to time, so I'm starting to speed up. Same thing, we've got our groups. Everyone seemed to like that, so just take a look there. We've got taking an online class. This is great too. You can take it with your with someone that you don't know, so there's no hard feelings. But you can learn what you like from taking an online class from one of your colleagues and what you don't. So thank you for the wiggle room. But I took a class and I graduated with my MBA. Those are some of my online student friends from that. But I learned that I love weekly videos from my professor. Rachel does those. I learned that I actually got angry when my professor didn't give me feedback within a week. And so I make sure that I give my feedback. I learned that even if I hated my professor, I loved online collaborative semester-long projects, even if they were via Zoom. So I learned that I loved that and how I wanted to structure it. I learned how easy it was to cheat with Chegg. I learned that hybrid setup is not something that I'm very skilled at, so I would need to develop that if I were to do it. And I didn't see it done in action. In fact, I fell asleep many times, went from my computer while the class was going on. So those are my takeaways. You learn examples and non-examples from taking classes from your peers. So I loved that. And now I'm going to hand it back to Rachel.
Thanks, Sarah, for all those examples. So again, as we mentioned, we were going to do a do now, do next, do later. And so that was kind of our do now. Those are some small changes that you can make in your courses, not to implement all of them, but just some ideas for things that you could do. And, as we talked about in our book club this semester, even if you just implement one or two of those things, it can make a big difference in the interactions that you see from your students. One of the things that Sarah and I talked about previously when we worked on our paper is that I always do a survey at the beginning of the semester and ask students, do you have anything going on this semester that might influence your ability to be successful in the class? You would be surprised at what they tell me. And then I'm able to keep up with the students because, again, I'm always looking for ways to connect to them and make it feel personal. If it were face to face, we would do that. But in an online class, you have to make some of those things happen. And so I just make a point if they tell me I'm getting married or I'm having a baby or, I have a sick aunt at home, all kinds of things that they have disclosed. I make calendar reminders for myself and send them an email to check in. Hey, how's your aunt doing? I know you have a lot on your plate with your caregiving responsibilities, or hey, I know that you're due to have a baby in about a month. How's everything going? Are you feeling okay? Do you need to get ahead on some assignments? Things like that, to make it feel more personal. So things you can do now, and then we're going to move into an activity to think about what could you do in the future as you move forward. Sarah, you're muted.
Okay. All right. So I'm putting the link to the Mentimeter into the chat. You can also use your phones. And I'm going to go over to this slide too, because you can also just go to menti.com and input the code 77172408. We have 5 questions, and this will help us process the do next and do later. And so the very first, we'll do 2 minutes per question, starting the timer now. We've got a response. What comes to mind when you think of small teaching strategies in online learning? Keep them coming. Got about 30 seconds. The big words that are popping up are that it's quick, it's easy, that it has an impact. We wait for final responses. Melanie, I'm putting the link to the editable document right now into the chat. All right. Thank you for that. Oh, yay. All right, so we're sticking with impact, quick and easy. We see that there's also collaboration and engagement and engaged and valuable. These things keep on popping up. It's optimistic. So thank you so much. You can keep on adding, but we're going to go to the next one. The next one is more of a short answer. And again, if you are not logged in, you can do menti.com. And then the code is 7717-2408. And the question is, how can small teaching strategies impact digital learning equity and student persistence? We have about 2 minutes here. What I'm learning about this group is that they like the one-word answers, which is all good. We have about 30 seconds. I like how we are affirming the cultural capital that our students bring into the classroom. Go YASO. We're talking about engagement, we're reducing cognitive load, and we're maintaining interest and creating community. So very, very awesome. Thank you so much. Now it's a ranking system. I want you to rank your top 3. So you would just pick the top ones that you want and just drag it to that section. I know this is a bit of a big list, but I'm excited to see what you all put. All right, so no dragging, just touch the 3 you want and then hit submit. We have about 30 seconds. There we go. There we go. Nice. We've had about 5 people participating, so this is, ooh, yay. We're getting more. Keep it coming. All right, so as we get to this 9, it looks like the number 1 that you guys saw today is designing and teaching for cultural inclusion. The second easy one is providing short lecture videos. And then backwards design was really important to you too. That doesn't mean that goals contracts is not important. It just means that you had some other ideas that were more exciting for you. Thank you, Jamie. So what is your due next? This could just be something as simple as the #1 strategy that you liked. It could be a class that you're going to take or a PD that you're doing. But anything that you plan on doing next to develop as an online educator for equity. Work on creating some Menti activities. Ooh, read Rachel and Sarah's article. Holy moly. That makes me happy. Was that you, Rachel? I'm just kidding. Take a class on online teaching that's outside of your university. Awesome. Man, words are hard. You got 30 seconds. All the things. Perfect. And again, we typically have about 5 people responding, so this is really good. Oh, yay! Stay up to date with technology. More mini videos, more scheduled Zooms. Yeah, and the good thing about these scheduled Zooms, even in online asynchronous, is even if one person comes, you post the video afterwards, and that's the start of the engagement. So well done. And now this is it. If you have any additional questions, you can add them here with your contact information. I'm actually going to exit out of this. Don't even worry about it because you can put it in the chat instead. And we're just going to come back to our last slide. So thank you so much. I hope that you guys had a great time. Rachel and I apologize for going a little bit over. But that QR code will bring you to the Caring for Students playbook, which we think is one more amazing resource for you all to check out. I'm seeing Chelsea nod. I think she knows what it is. And so if you have any questions or comments, we'll wrap up now. Thank you so much.
Thank you both, Dr. Straub, Dr. Jumper, for all those amazing strategies. I really love having examples, like Susan said in the chat, so many helpful, quick strategies that can really up the ante for our online teaching and help us connect to our students. So many whom we don't get this one-on-one interaction with in an asynchronous environment. So you helped us see ways in which we can be more relational in those spaces. Other folks, do you have any questions for them or comments? Helpful tips. Thank you. Okay. All right. So we have your contact information. Thank you again, both. I will stop the recording.